public meeting is now commencing with the consent agenda. Item numbers 25805 to 25830. Please note the conditions of approval as recommended by various committees, and staff has noted my recusal from item 25810. Are there any other recusals that are not noted? No, let the record show there are no other recusals. And for the record, there are no members of the public that have signed up to testify on any of the consent items. Does anyone wish to testify? No, let the record show no one wishes to testify. Will someone make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, we have unanimous approval on the consent agenda. Thank you. And so we are approved. We are now going to move forward with two items. The first on the public hearing agenda is 25831. So we will be deliberating and voting on these items. So the first one is the design of a prototypical ambulance pedestal.
Sorry, we're good.
And they just arrived.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeff with Shore Power. So we're working with FDNY on an ambulance pedestal design, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So here's some of the background. I think probably again you're familiar with it, but the basic idea is to allow the emergency vehicles to plug in so they don't have to idle, therefore not wasting fuel, and of course all the associated emissions and noise that would cause issues within the city. We'll be deploying 10 different locations. I think the first few we have a preliminary location for, and most of the funding is actually coming through NYSERDA. We've gone through a few different design iterations, and I don't know if there's how much background information you have already, so I'm happy to talk about that more, but
We are familiar with the program.
okay.
We know and completely buy into the reason why this is happening. So I think let's just focus on your design.
Great. Yeah, it's a great thing for the city, and again, good for emissions and all the other associated issues. So this kind of describes how it works, really. So in general, the ambulance parks in certain locations. The stations would be located where, I guess, they would typically be idling. They would then pull the cord out, plug it into the vehicle, and then if there's an emergency call, it auto ejects and reels the cord in, so it's packed away safely and secure, so no one can, either damage it or harm themselves. So here's the design. As you all know, we've gone through a couple of different iterations. The complete housing is, all of the exterior is stainless steel. I think there was some question about galvanized. It's actually all stainless steel. The only elements really that are not stainless steel on the exterior would be the key fob, or it's an NFC type RFID reader. So you can use a key fob, a card, or even a smartphone to activate it. And then our system would basically authorize and then open the door. We call it a pocket door, but it sometimes causes confusion. But underneath, in here, a door would slide open, and then the cord would pull out and retract and plug into the ambulance. So we did shorten it quite a bit. It was over 6 feet tall. We had feedback that the commission would like it 50 inches plus or minus 50 before. So we squeezed everything down as much as we could internally. There's a lot of electronics, and the biggest component is a heavy-duty reel. And we could probably find a smaller reel, but the issue there is it's rated for 30 amps. So the cord's a decent size, and so that you don't get heating, and it's insulated and durable, so people using it or dropping it on the ground won't wear it over time, and it'll be safe. So the only other piece there, you see kind of the bluish screen. That's an LCD screen, and it would just give simple prompts like active, or as they're using it, it'll actually count down in terms of energy use and time used. So you can see this is the internals of the original bigger station, but it actually has quite a bit going on in there with the electronics. This over here is the reel assembly. Again, it's pretty heavy duty, so there's a fairly strong motor on it, and it just takes space basically. Here's the actuator that would open and close the door on the pocket to allow access to the cord, and electrical components, which these are the same. Again, there's more components. I can talk about any specifics if needed, but you can see the only real larger empty space on the original design would be this area here, and there's not a lot going on there other than for ground clearance, and that's in the event of floods and that kind of thing. Then you'll have the electrical down low. If it's not on a floodplain or an area that's prone to flooding, we can of course get that down a lot, and that would be an area where we could save some space. So factoring in that and then crunching down basically on the components and packaging, we were able to get it from the original height 68 down to 54 as recommended. The top of the station is angled so people don't leave stuff on top. For their benefit, they don't accidentally leave their keys or something, as well as sometimes drains or food or other things get left, and it's just a nuisance. So the angle, as well as rain runoff, snow, etc. So the dimensions are here. It's all pretty much based on packaging. But if you have any questions on it, go through it. Here's just dimensional comparison. You can see different items and average size unit next to the station along with the bike rack. Next to an ambulance. And then this was a real photo, and then we just digitally put in the ambulance in this shorter station. It appears a little dark, but you can see it's definitely shorter than the original. Other just comparisons. On this, we noted that a lot of graphics and busy design wasn't desirable, so you'll note that we removed pretty much everything. So again, it's all stainless steel, and then the watermark just notifying, I guess, FTNY as well as passerbys that it's not for them, it's actually for the city or for FTNY. We did do a light watermark as an option if that's desirable. This is how you would access the station. 2 locking keys. The operator should never need to enter. It's only if there's problems or maintenance and that kind of thing. This is the dimensions of the base plate. And just some mounting options. I don't know how much detail you want on this, but it set bolts into the concrete. Most of the time we're assuming it'd be on some street side, so it'd be on the sidewalk, on concrete. Typical OEM street layout, distance from the road. Sometimes we recommend, again, this isn't above you, but we'll recommend putting steel bollards. It's not a requirement. And it could be a nuisance in terms of walking by and whatnot. So we didn't put those in here, but if protection is needed in certain circumstances, or if it happens to be a location where you have to back in, that might be a good opportunity for additional protection. Okay. So that's it, really. I mean, I can go into a lot more detail. I guess we'll open for feedback and questions, or of course, if anything why further input as well.
Well, again, I just want to reiterate the Commission's enthusiasm for this program, and feel it will be an incredible improvement for all the reasons that you cited. As you're undoubtedly aware, and at BNY as well, there's another design that has been approved, and in fact we are honoring it with a design award. And so you're in a situation where we're inevitably comparing this design to
Sure.
one that we have already approved. And so I would say, speaking generally, but I want people to speak individually, we find this to be less successful than the other scheme. And I think that there are some subtleties that, but in the main, they add up to being very important overall. And I think that, as our city moves into the next whatever century or period of time, we've been observing an increase in the number of elements in the public realm, whether they be for wayfinding or Wi-Fi or elements such as this. And there's a standard that we feel is important to uphold in the public right-of-way. So I had just a couple of questions. Does your pedestal not require any ventilation for the computer equipment?
It does not. I mean, we have extensive experience with this type of station, not specific to ambulances, but for trucks and electric vehicles. None of our stations need venting per se. We have over 3,000 connection points out in the world, throughout the country, in New York State, not within the city, obviously. But so, yeah, through that experience, we know, and based on the design and temperature range of the components, no venting is required.
And my other question is, you express some, I don't want to say difficulty, but that it took some effort to lower the pedestal. And I wasn't quite sure, are you convinced that this lower height will work in flood zones?
So in general, yes, but it would depend, obviously, how high the water gets. We kind of a design standard is 18 inches, and then you don't really have to typically worry about it, even in a typical flood zone. That it's fine. There's of course 100 or multi-year floods that will take out everything, including inside buildings. So you can't really design for that, but
Oh, you can. I mean, we know every square inch of New York has a flood map. So we know what that is projected, and we
Sure.
know what it's projected for 50 years.
right.
And we also have rainfall data. I mean, Hillside Avenue in Queens is well above the floodplain, but it gets 3 feet of water rainfall. So what I'm asking is, would your pedestal height vary based on the flood zone?
No, it doesn't have to. Again, I would recommend we look at the flood maps, and if it's like a one-year type flood zone, then I wouldn't recommend putting in that type of location. And if we know the typical heights that the water might come in, then we can base it on that. If it's a particular location that's very desirable, and FDNY wants one there, then we could offer the original taller design.
Okay.
But right as of now, to the commission, we're offering the 54-inch.
And my last question, we're almost running out of time. The circular color element that I think faces
Size, yeah.
away from the truck and north, or there, that thing.
Yep.
What colors are they and what do they signify?
So based on the input from the commission, we updated. Blue would be when it's operating and effectively charging, we call it, or in use. Green was typically available, but we'll just make it kind of a white, a plain, a neutral color. And then I believe if there's an issue or a problem, we generally light up red, but people didn't want that to be an indicator of a stop sign or something else that's typically red, so we changed that to like an amber orange color.
So that's consistent with the, because I mean, even though it's not our purview to speak to safety, it does seem to me from FDNY's perspective that these should look and feel similar.
Sure.
But I think from an aesthetic standpoint, we also feel strongly that these should look and feel as similar. So, other comments?
I find this design not as interesting or beautiful as the one that we've seen before, but I also feel like even the light fixtures and whatever is on the side, it's not attractive at all. And I think that little blue lip there, I don't know how big it needs to be to actually to be red. How about in the rain? How about in the snow? Like, how is that
The
going to be effective? Yes, to give information. And also the FDNY logo on the bottom, I don't think makes any sense, especially if the ambulance is coming from far away. Or how is that going to be read or recognized as something that is not for the public, but for actually FDNY? It's, you can hardly read it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
think it's effective.
okay. Point well taken. I mean, I think we added this as very subtle on purpose. That was sort of the feedback we thought we were getting. So the other options, obviously, nothing. But we can make it more distinctive. We can put it up high in a lot of the, like, for example, electric vehicle charging stations where subtlety is important. A lot of the customers want, visibility and for people really to know what it is. And I mean, I think something between that and this, we could definitely change that a little bit. It's not a major issue. And the small LCD screen is just really designed for the operator while he's pulling the cord out, or wondering if it's working, or seeing how much energy it's used, that kind of thing. He'd be right in front of the station. So it's actually pretty subtle and small. It's not bright enough to cause a distraction from far away.
The hood stands out, and I can see a couple of reasons. One might be weather, and the other might be prevent access to the door.
Correct.
Is it one or the other? Well,
Yeah, we call it the pocket again. It's kind of, I think it was referred to as a dryer rim cover. But yeah, it sticks out. It looks kind of that shape. And it's precisely for those reasons. It's weather, to keep the cord out of weather. Also, we could have a flat design, but then when the door opens, rain, snow, etc., can get inside, which isn't a problem per se, but over time, like anything, if it's exposed to elements, it's more likely to get dirt and other debris, and that might cause problems. So that could be removed. We sort of are playing on a fine line because, we know moves out there. We don't really know they're designed well. We've purposely not done so. be careful with crossover and particularly if they have a design patent, we don't want to infringe on that. So we can really make it, I mean, we could make it look identical to theirs. The internals would probably be different because they're designed by us, but we can try to get closer. We could try to get closer, but
And it doesn't do much for the looks.
oh, okay.
I think that an important thing to consider is continuity. You know, considering that commissioned by the same department, most citizens aren't going to know the difference between shore power and move. And it's not so much about trying to particularly go up close to their design because of the way it looks, as much as it is to like make the whole system feel continuous. And I think if it stands out compared to almost all of the other facilities in the city that kind of have similar functions, I think that's the issue that we're addressing. Because we've seen a lot of things that came from various other companies that actually still feel that they're kind of in relationship to the pieces in other parts of the city. And I think that would be just to have an overall connection to the street furniture technology is what we would be thinking about.
Following up from Hank's idea, I mean, I think what we're all trying to say is it doesn't, what we're striving for and what I know FDNY has been striving for very, very successfully is design excellence. And we want a piece of street furniture that is of a very high quality design. It doesn't have to be the same design as Move. I think Hank is right. It ought to be in some way consistent both with other ambulance charging stations and with other street furniture. So there's a coherence in the overall street furniture design that has a clean, modernist aesthetic, which so much of it seems to have. And this, you know, maybe it's the dryer vent, maybe it's there's something about it that doesn't achieve what FDNY has been achieving successfully in its other projects. And I think for that reason, a lot of us are, you know, as enthusiastic as we are about the program, getting more of these out there, and yes, there's only 10 and a million other things. I think our job is to push everyone who comes before us to the best possible design. And I think we would all agree that this needs more design work. Is that?
Yes, true. But I think, and it's not just about I think it can seem trivial if you just think about it as aesthetic, but I think the idea is for people who are walking through. I didn't know until I became part of the commission how much thought was put into the city and making things just not stick out that kind of in public space that kind of make me kind of a little bit more kind of concerned or tense. And the idea would just be to really kind of make it either fit in or either beautiful or invisible. Like and I think this is just kind of, it seems like something that's just going to be like, oh, what's that? It's not a phone booth, it's not and it's going to get attention. And I think the idea is just to not make it seem like things are just, the idea for the design commission is that things aren't just like placed in just for functionality purposes without consideration to the long-term effect, because one begins the next, begins the next.
And I think that I would agree that as more of these objects appear on our sidewalk, as a just your basic New York City citizen, I care what they're about, and I'm proud of this, and I think that FDNY is doing an incredible service to me as a New Yorker so hiding the logo or somehow sticking it only on the street side where you can't even see it doesn't seem like the right thing to do. I mean, I think I'm not saying it should be red, white, and blue, but it's not something that we should hide or put kind of low. But now that I'm looking at this image on the screen, something is definitely confusing me. Why is the dryer vent here and here?
That's just the carryover from, so this is, we wanted to show a side angle with the circle, which we didn't have a rendering at the time. This is a totally new design. So it'll be this high. Sorry,
So it'll be this high?
correct, yeah.
Right, because you don't want the fireman bending over.
Right, right,
Right, okay.
It was at that level when it was taller.
exactly.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
And I have the same question on, the thing on the right doesn't look anything like anything. What is it?
That's the back, again,
What
so
about this, and there's no slant?
there's no slant at all anymore.
So this is like
So
an
what-
existing station you've done elsewhere, which you've done 3,000.
Right.
Got it, okay.
So, I mean, we probably misread or maybe overdid a little what, going from the original, we had, you know, more graphics on this design originally. There is a taper where it's wider on the bottom. On the electric vehicle side, we actually put a globe on the top, and that lights up, so it looks like a retro fuel pump. And so, as a design, as a whole, it's more, it's for visibility, it's, you know, it wants to be seen. So we went from that, you know, to something the way we read it was, you know, more like, well, we don't really want it to be too noticeable at all. So we squared it off and made it more like your standard, like, electrical box, if you will. And I guess, you know, it sounds like we should have maybe been somewhere a little more in between. But,
I think this would be noticeable, but not in a good way, as it is.
okay.
Yeah, it has to be better, it has to be nicer.
Well, I think this is a great kind of slide because it shows the fire hydrants, which, you know, like it's also something that people can access, but it's this repeated picture throughout the city, but it's an icon for kind of, you know, safety or, you know, there's a supply of water in case of a fire. And, you know, even though it's a purely functional design, you know, there is this kind of like iconic quality to it. That's probably was a crew that all the time as well. And I think that's kind of what people were saying too, there's like these sort of fixtures throughout the city that have this kind of iconic, you know, local design quality that, you know, we would hope that these fixtures have to, even if the candidates can access them, whether that's in branding or material choice color, and then the functionality as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have I guess, a bit of a challenge on our hands in that, you know, how visible, we don't want to cross over too much into competing designs. And there's only so many ways you can kind of make a box to make it look good and fit, you know, and be functional, I guess. So, you know, we thought this would be kind of the best compromise in terms of, you know, having the pocket and, you know, having the door.
I would have said that until I saw the roof. I think that there's only so many ways you can make a box. I think the reason that you talk about design excellence is that actually aiming for something that's actually really considering how to make things both functional, not just in application, but functional in the environment that they exist in.
Right.
I mean, one of the things, and it's, you know, just a suggestion, is based on what you just said. I mean, an industrial designer who spent his life making industrial designs beautiful would never agree with the statement that there's only a couple of ways you can make a box. So, I mean, the notion that, you know, this is an important piece of New York City, and it may be 10 now and 100 later, I think our view would be that, you know, maybe it's worth investing in, you know, greater professional assistance in order to make this as good as is necessary to get this commission's approval. And that's only a suggestion, nothing more than that. But there's a lot, I think, that could be done that would make it possible for us to say yes, and yes is what we'd like to say. But I think I'm not speaking out of turn by saying, at this point, we're a long way from this, a long way. So we need to really work hard on making sure that whatever comes back next is really good, is an excellent design. And it doesn't have to be the same as another design, it just has to be equally as excellent. And maybe a design can help you with that. I don't know.
Can I ask just a quick question that the material, is this a sort of a defensible or scratchable material
It's a bare metal, it's stainless steel, so I mean, there's a lot of fixtures or electrical boxes, they're the same material, brushed stainless. Yeah. So it can be scratched. like any metal.
I wanted to just add to the idea of continuity here because it is something, and there's two user groups really that I'm concerned about. One, we'll talk a lot about the public realm, the general public, and being able to understand what this piece of furniture or amenity is. But there's that aspect of it. But then the second part is just the consistency and functionality for the users of the equipment. And I think there's just, even if you don't design the same exact box, that there are some elements that can be made visually consistent, functionally consistent, that would then add up to an aesthetic consistency that would lend the overall system and program that continuity. And so those are the considerations I think that I would really like to see, both first and foremost for the user, the FDNY personnel, and then for the public. It's going to be something that people live with and see, and I agree it's something that's really great for our city, and we'd love to have the design be consistent with that.
That was an excellent summary. Do you have any questions? We're going to vote on
Well,
your,
again, we obviously have a design challenge in that it's not just looks, it's not, we don't want to hide it, we don't want to make it too overly gaudy. We have certain components that we have to fit inside. We have to contend with not crossing over into someone else's design. So obviously, we have designers, we can hire other designers, but there's more than one issue here. Obviously, everyone probably has a slightly different opinion, but overall, we're getting the feeling that the design's not successful. So we really need, I guess, more precise feedback, or is there some dialogue that we could have, rather than indirectly, more directly, so that we're not going down a path thinking, oh, okay, they want this, but really, they want that.
well, we don't want you to spin wheels. I think that, staff has already given you some helpful comments, for example, the colors for the circular light. So my suggestion would be that you continue to work with the staff, and then if they feel that the design is come an appropriate distance, so to speak, it can be sent to us, electronically, so you don't have to wait for another meeting, and get some feedback, right away from not just staff, but from commissioners. So I think that would be what I would suggest. Is that?
Well, first of all, I should have said this before, I want to thank the commission for taking a look at the design. It sounds like everyone's on board in terms of the overall reasoning behind it and saving fuel and emissions in the city. We appreciate FDNY's efforts in helping us through the process. It's very new to us. We've been through similar things, but not quite the same. We usually, on the electric vehicle charging side, it's more been people really want to see it. And so this poses a different challenge, but we've had a lot of emails with the FDNY folks, so we appreciate everyone from Stephanie's help through the process, and hopefully we can get through this. And unfortunately, we sort of went to the original design and literally designed everything to a working model, and then kind of late in the game found out we have to go through the PDC process. So it's been admittedly frustrating, and then now we're getting to the point where it looks like it's going to be pretty much another complete design. But I can appreciate feedback. I know the reasoning and thought process behind it. It's we now just need to kind of wrap our heads around what really are the important aspects. Because I'm an engineer myself. I own the part of the company, but I'm more on the functional side. There are others in the company that are design side, but there was literally within the company, compromises. So.
For me, it's just, I feel like there was this beautiful design that was already made. There's a certain standard or someone who lives in a certain neighborhood, if I have seen one somewhere in one neighborhood and see it completely different or a lesser quality of design, I would feel like I've been snubbed. Like, why is in my neighborhood doesn't have the prettier one? Why, I would question the investment in the design depending on the neighborhood. I mean, that's just,
So would you want more visible or more like an electrical box that?
I think you should invest in maybe a different, more focused design expert.
I think what your company does is really about the future and about making it safer, healthier, and more attractive. And I think that when you're making something that is futuristic in function, I think it's important to kind of it to look like that inside and out. And I think from an engineering perspective, it's amazing. And we just think that if you don't make a good argument for it aesthetically, it could easily get rejected and therefore not help the overall mission of the company and the city, et cetera.
Well, I just want you to know, I agree with all the comments, it's just more from the design standpoint. If we hire 10 industrial designers, if you all don't agree, then it really doesn't matter, right? So I'd like to, see how we can best get, the most feedback.
And we heard the comment about the concern about staying away from Google, but I mean, maybe it's something about talking to them. I don't know if they're a competitor, et cetera, but what you do affects them, what they do affects you. And so, in a way, you both have a level of investment. And so I would say it's great that two companies are rented because it gives a diversity and new ideas, but maybe at some point, since they're being hired to perform the same function for the same company or same city agency, there shouldn't be like, we're over here, we're over there, because eventually somebody.
It's the same agency that's got to use these things, right? And the same public that's going to see it.
I look at this stated.
Yeah, we've talked to them, so we've actually tried to work closer with them. So we'll reach out again.
Tell them to play nice.
Well, you said something.
All right, well now, sadly, we're going to take a vote, which you're probably not going to want to hear. Does anyone like to make a motion to disapprove this project as the design has been presented? The design, not the premise of the project.
So
Second. All in favor to disapprove this aesthetic? All right, so I think hopefully you understand some of the reasoning. Absolutely do feel free to reach out to staff so that you don't feel frustrated or go to some great lengths to do presentations or whatever. And I know they'll be helpful and we will be as responsive as we can, as quickly as we can.
Is there a specific person I should work through, or?
Continue to work through FGNY and we'll work with FGNY.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we'll take you back.
I have to, so that's a bad day. I'm off to California in an hour, so.
Hello, I'm Nicole Grasso, I'm with CTA Architects. I'm working on the Albert, 23 East 10th Street, and we're doing a sidewalk replacement project. So I guess just a quick overview is right now, the building is located downtown. It's right next to, it sits right outside of Greenwich Village Historic District, or Landmark District. And this is the building outlined, and the red is the sidewalk, so it's on 3 different street frontages: East 10th Street, University Place, and East 11th Street. And these are just a couple of photos around the site. And we are proposing to replace all of the sidewalk, except for, right now, there's existing granite flags, which are at the corner of University and East 11th Street. Those would remain, and just the concrete around it would be replaced. And just a quick history of the building. So it's a very big structure, and as it exists today, it is the convergence of 4 different buildings, which started, the first one was row houses in 1850s, and over time, by the 1920s, it was a combination of 4 buildings altogether. So these photos were taken in the 60s, and this is just to show that you can see that the corner has the granite that still remains on the site today. There you go. That's the one. And these are the existing conditions on the site. So, like I said, we're proposing to replace all the concrete. Right now, it starts at East 10th Street. There is concrete, and the entrance of the building has the carpet treatment, which I had nothing to do with, which is like brick pavers. And then this middle one is University Place, so the concrete wraps the corner, and then where it gets to that lighter color is the vaulted area. And then the darker areas are where the granite exists. And then East 11th is the bottom one, and that has a combination of, all of them as well. The vaulted area with the granite, with the concrete, and then concrete on grade is that, tanner color. So the reason that we're proposing that we're doing a distinctive sidewalk and we're putting this application in is because the property sits within 3 zones for the New York City zoning resolution, which specifies per DOT, it's 2 different concrete colors, because one is in the commercial district that allows the gray commercial tint, and then the other one would be the unpigmented. So the building, with this project, really would like us, or, their intention with it is really to have a uniform, consistent area that, unifies their whole building, or their whole property. So we are proposing to, like I said, leave the existing granite flags, but then tint the concrete, tint the new concrete to match the granite, and then this area over the vault, right there, sorry. Okay, that area, they are planning to replace it, but because it is a vaulted area, it entails a little bit more money than what the building has right now. So during this phase, they would like to stain it the same color as the new concrete, which we spoke to the manufacturer. They provide a product that they can match, whatever the pigment is, they can match the stain to that, just to provide a uniform, consistent look throughout the property. And then these are just the existing materials. So as I mentioned before, there's concrete on grade, which is the first few photos. Well, actually the first 5 photos. Then B is where that carpet treatment is, but that will be ripped out and just be concrete. And then the bottom 2 over here is the concrete on grade. And then over here is the existing granite slabs. And then these are the proposed materials. Over here is the existing granite that would remain. We have gone through extensive color samples to try to get a pigmented concrete that will match the granite, because the granite is, it's a natural material, so each slab varies a little bit, and it's also, very weathered. Each slab is a little bit different, but overall, kind of has this warmer color to it, and so this is the concrete pigment that we that the building has selected, which is a landmark gray color. And then, like I said before, the manufacturer has told us that they can match the new pigmented concrete to the stained concrete, to the stain for the concrete, which would be the same color, the landmark gray. Also with the sidewalk project, we are replacing the tree pits, which we've been in touch with the Department of Parks and Recreation, and we will be doing the 5x10 tree pits. And the design is, we've chosen this design, which is also consistent throughout the neighborhood. Many of the other buildings have done sidewalk replacements and have selected this design, which we will be matching. That's it, yes.
So a question, would I assume that the University Place is considered a commercial district and therefore allows the darker concrete and that the side streets are residential?
Actually, no. Well, University is commercial, but it's not, there's I think like 4 different commercial zones that allow the pigmented, the commercial gray, I'll refer to it. That's actually on East 11. And it's, for the most part, it's this area over here. So the building is cut.
University is commercial, but it's not the tinted standard is for C44 through C47, C5, and C6 only. So I think university is just a lower level.
Yeah, University is C1-7.
But 11th Street is one of those districts?
Yeah.
Right, so this is a complicated application for the reasons you stated, as well as the different materials that exist on the site. One more question, on 11th Street then, is the concrete the tinted or the untinted as you move further west?
What do you mean, the existing concrete?
Yes.
I mean, it seems like it's untinted the further west you go, but it's pretty dirty and it's all, I mean, as far as it exists right now, it's very patchworky all throughout the site.
Right.
But for the most part, I don't think that any of them have that commercial gray. But like I said, it's not very consistent.
Right.
It is also a new standard, so I mean, if the building hasn't done any work yet, they may not have gone to that standard. I don't know how far the zoning district is that.
Okay. So, questions, thoughts, comments?
Can I just say one other comment? So the building had selected, it's a board and they've gone through a series of samples and selecting the color. They're flexible on the landmark gray color. Their whole, reason for doing this is that they really want the consistency portion of it. So if the color becomes an issue, they're willing, they're flexible. It's just, having it on all 3 streets.
I guess, do you have any idea as their architect what their phase 2 plan is from a timing perspective to redo the vault?
I'm not exactly sure on the timing, but I know that it would be, anything involving the vault. So the vault is on both streets, East 11th and University.
So the vault, just so I make sure I understand this, the vault is that large area there sans the granite, and that also is the vault, right?
Correct. And so these are the basement. These go down to the cellar, so it extends to about here.
Mm-hmm.
So the vault work, right now there's like a false ceiling underneath, like in the vault. So that's why they're afraid to rip it up, and who knows what it will show. Yeah. But so as far as the time, I'm not exactly sure. But I would think that it would be in the next several years.
I think the main thing, it obviously makes sense, the consistency, appreciate that very much in terms of making sure that the sidewalk is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood and context. And I just wonder if maybe a more simple approach might maintain that continuity without having to go into all the tinted concrete treatment, going with the standards that basically surround this entire site. Except for the granite, I think might be an approach that would be also workable.
Well, actually, like walking just throughout this block, well, right across the street is where the Landmark District starts. So right across University is where it starts, so that sidewalk is a different color. But then also, the building right next door hasn't done their sidewalk, but like 2 buildings down and they have that gray,
Right.
the commercial gray color, yeah.
So can you go to the plan?
In the area plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the full block,
Yeah.
round block.
This one.
Yes, so there's blocks of that landmark gray around this block.
Well, the Landmark area is over here.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure how it borders, but I definitely know it's across the street. The commercial gray is around here on East 11.
And the rest of it is standard concrete?
I mean, as far as the new, I can't even tell you really what's exactly new, but the board member, literally every time I go there, she will walk me around the block and be like, what about this one? What about this? How is this done? So there's not a very consistent, color pattern throughout.
Well, concrete also changes with age and.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Cement
Traffic
use,
and everything
I think
too.
it is, and, I think that that's kind of our point. First of all, I'll just be completely blunt here. We do not allow distinctive sidewalks in residential buildings. There's nothing about a residential building that is an improvement to the public realm. It's just a private residential building. And so, as a premise, we don't grant distinctive sidewalks. Number 2, I would say, is that the argument kind of falls apart here, because the idea is to unify, which we certainly would agree with. We certainly appreciate expanding the tree pits and getting rid of the brick carpet treatment. But if you really think about this building sitting comfortably in its neighborhood, it is going to sit more comfortably in standard concrete, because the vaults are standard concrete. The vaults cannot, I have personally, I'm a landscape architect, I have personally tried to tint old concrete. It simply doesn't work. And in order to make it work, you actually have to sandblast it, which is not permitted in the city of New York. So the consistency will not be achieved, even within your block, within your property boundary. And so I think that we all pretty much feel that this is not a landmark district. This is standard concrete. This is, for now, standard concrete. This is not in the historic district, and there's really no grounds to give this a distinctive sidewalk approval.
Well, actually, this side is the commercial gray side.
But it is in the future now zoned to allow commercial gray, but it is not presently.
It's a mixture. There's some standard and some of the gray.
But if the idea is that, so you have 2 ways to go. This building is either going to stand out on 11th Street because it's standard concrete, or it's going to stick out because nothing else is going to be gray. We're not going to approve it.
I also think there's just, it'd be one thing if the whole building was a property that was used, but it seems like there's only 2 entrances, the one on 11th and the one on 10th Street. And so I'm not quite sure why, there's maybe 6 or 7 businesses on University Place, why they would all have a different concrete than what's across the street on University Place, or on between the 11th and 12th, or 9th and 10th. It just seems unnecessary. And maybe the one argument I would have would be for it being, maybe if the main entrance was on 10th and it was a historic building and the just looking on the maps, it doesn't seem, it would seem inconsistent with the neighborhood as it is to have a darker.
Well, I would also say DOT needs to give this some thought, because I think this is an interesting example of a problem, where we can't, I mean, if this is what's going to start to come to us, where you've got one frontage that allows a tint and one frontage that doesn't, and the property owner wants all tint because zoning allows them to do that, we have a problem. And so I do have to say, you know, you're caught somewhat in the middle of this. And so we have a choice, and we're choosing to stay with the standard gray, standard concrete, unpigmented gray. And I think it's what I would suggest to you, I mean, you are caught in the middle, you've got a client that's going to be seriously unhappy with this decision. I would say you ought to try a mock-up of staining the concrete. I think you're going to find it's blotchy and awful, and that it's not going to be a positive upgrade to the building. And if you tint with that lag time of 3 or 4 years between tinting now and tinting later, it's gonna be even blotchier. So I just think we're speaking for the city of New York, we're speaking for the public realm. It will not, this project does not offer an aesthetic benefit to the city, and practically it definitely does. Anyone else want to? All right, so we're going to take a vote now. Would someone like to make a motion to disapprove this project?
So moved.
Second? All in favor of disapproving this project?